Welcome to this video about the care activities on determination of eligibility. Please note that we have other videos about this topic on the Sky website, alongside with all the resources and a handout that will help you embedding the learning from this video. My name is Carmen, and with me today is Paula. We are both social care practitioners, and in this video we are gonna explore the overview of the legal duty of determining eligibility. So, Paula, in my head, one of the things that is very clear is that we determine eligibility to ascertain which ones of the needs identified during the assessment, which is called assessed needs historically in social care, are eligible for care and support. We both have a lot of experiences working with different local authorities across the country, or of things being phrased or done in different ways. How will you put it from your point of view? What kind of things do you think are important for people to know in the what it is determining eligibility?
Okay, so from my practice, the determination of eligibility is the point where, as a social care practitioner, I reflect on the conversation that I've had with the individual during the assessment of needs to identify whether any of those needs that have been identified means that they are unable to achieve two or more specified outcomes that we're given through regulations. For me, and within the Care Act, it is really clear that the determination of eligibility isn't an assessment of eligibility, but an opportunity to determine whether any of those needs that have been assessed are eligible for care and support moving forward.
Absolutely, and is in many occasions, don't we, Paula? We find that people do incorporate the determination of eligibility within the assessment, and both for a carer and an adult, because we know the determination of eligibility in terms of the legal duty, not the content, but the intervention is the same. It is about looking at the needs identified during the assessment. So that is how it is. And the assessment, and you said the meeting, the process there, but it's all the information, because as you explore with June in the assessment of needs, or Jackie explores with Kevin in the carers assessment videos, the assessment is not the form, is not the meeting, is the whole process of gathering information around what are these person's needs are. So the next point that is important to get across in terms of the overview of the legal duty, and we both kind of phrase it somehow, is that the determination of eligibility takes place after the assessment has been completed. And you mentioned how some people do an assessment of eligibility. I have had examples where people still think that is like it was with the Community Care Act, where when we did assess against an eligibility criteria. So facts was about risk, and we did assess against facts, didn't we? And that's why I think the practice continues of not separating that first is the assessment and then the determination of eligibility, but people doing together. Do you have any other views on this or anything to add?
I would say that that we need, as social care practitioners, to be really clear that the assessment of need is one process, one intervention. The determination of eligibility is the next, and then if there are eligible needs, we will go on to the care and support planning. We cannot possibly determine if a person has eligible needs unless we've done that assessment of needs, and I think that is just really important to get across. And it's also important to just make it clear that it is the social care practitioner that is leading on the determination of eligibility. Even if an individual has undertaken a self-assessment, it's the local authority, the social care practitioner, that takes the evidence gathered during the assessment of need to enable them to make that determination.
Absolutely. And the other thing here, I'm thinking about, one of the key things at the moment in terms of proportionate assessments. Yeah. So just to clarify for our listeners that we are not saying that you necessarily need to do 3 forms or 3 visits or 3 nothings. What we're saying is the intervention is different. So in your mind, you can't determine eligibility until you are very clear of what are the person's needs, assess needs, not eligible needs, but assess needs. What are all the needs in relation to the 9 areas of well-being that this person has, whether it's an adult or a carer? You obviously need to determine eligibility, also an understanding of what they think is well-being, so you can actually respond to the third question. But in terms of proportionate assessment, if you're dealing with somebody who has very high level of awareness of their needs and that is not a complex case, you can actually do the assessment and determination of eligibility in one conversation. So we're not saying that it has to be more time consuming or meetings. What we're saying is you need to have that clear picture of the individual needs before you determine eligibility, not during. Is that, would you agree that that's the
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So the last element that I think is important and would like also to get your views on for in terms of the overview of the legal duty is the fact that according to the regulations, determination of eligibility are 3 sequential questions. And the sequential is quite an important word because the last question says as a consequence. So you need to have responded an evidence the previous 2 questions to determine and respond appropriately to the last one. Yeah. So that's one point. What is your experience or your knowledge in terms of what is the way that people should be responding to those 3 questions?
They should be responding to those 3 questions with evidence, and that evidence should be gleaned from the assessment conversation with the individual. So this is why it's really important when we do undertake an assessment of need that we are asking questions to find out how it's impacting on the individual's well-being so that we can give evidence to that when we're determining eligibility. So what I often find when we're looking at that third criteria, for want of a better word, is that it's having a significant impact on them because it's impacting on their personal dignity with no explanation as to what that means to the individual. And so it is really important that we're capturing it in that person's words and from their viewpoint when we are recording the determination of eligibility. I think the determination of eligibility is absolutely an opportunity for the social care practitioner to demonstrate their analysis, and apply the law, which is, the Care Act and the regulations, but also to reflect on and analyse the information gathered during the assessment conversation.
And you mentioned something that is very interesting and in the video about promoting individual well-being with June, we pick up on that. And it's not the impact on the well-being, it's the impact on that individual's well-being. So if during the assessment we haven't explored what well-being in the 9 areas means for that individual, we want to be able to define or evidence what is the impact on that individual's well-being. And Jung was very clear that it's not about because I got a mental health issue, you assume this is what is important for my well-being. It's about knowing the person. And obviously we did link all this with the strengths-based and relationships practice conversations, isn't it? Where we get to know the individual and what is important for them. And that's what defines what well-being means for them, isn't it? So the last thing you mentioned that I think is very important too is about evidence. And I traditionally say that, well, we have the law, that we have to follow. We have the determination of eligibility regulations, We have the Care Act statutory guidance that tell us a bit how those regulations should to be applied. Then we have the evidence we gather on the assessment, and then we apply our professional judgment to it. But we can't alter the order of those elements. We can't substitute professional judgment, law with professional judgment, yeah, or evidence with our analysis. We need to ensure that the order is that one is the law, is the statutory guidance, is the evidence, and then the professional judgment analysis after all that has been there. Isn't it what anything you want to add there?
Not in relation to that, but I do think it's just worth mentioning that it's a national eligibility criteria, and so every local authority in the country is following the same process, same decision-making process, and you know that is really important to just flag here.
Their point of view of I got needs, which we will capture on the assessment, but that doesn't mean those needs meet the eligibility criteria. That's why we need to determine eligibility afterwards. So I do think this is a good point to stop. Thank you very much, Paula. And for the listeners, just keep an eye on our website and look for the rest of the videos on determining eligibility, and also the handout that will support you embedding the learning from this.